Record.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to another edition of the King and Cheese talk. Sorry, the King and the Wizard talk about cheese and wine. Honestly, I haven't started drinking the wine already. I promise.
We'll edit that out. Don't worry. We'll edit that one out.
Right, so we've got a treat for you today. I think this November in the UK. It's the weather. The nights are drawing in. It's been a bit cool and crisp here. I guess this is probably our last show before we do a Christmas special.
Absolutely, yes. And it's nice to see that we're coordinated with outfits as well. So it's the grey edition, the grey November edition.
Yeah, we didn't even plan that. Next time we should definitely.
Santa hats next time.
Santa hats. Right, so let's go through what we're going to be tasting today, and then we can get down to trying them. So we've got on the wine front, for white, we're going off to Austria, and we're going to try a Gruner Veltliner. And it's got a little bit of age, 2013. And then for the red, we're back to Burgundy. But this one's not your usual Burgundy. This is a Moulin-a-Vent, which is really a Beaujolais that's not put Beaujolais anywhere on the label, as it's trying to disassociate itself from that. So Stephen, for the cheese, where are we going today?
So the cheese, these we have 2 English and 1 Irish cheese. So we have this lovely little triple cream beauty called Bix, which is a lovely little individual cheese. That's a soft cheese. We have Killeen goat's Gouda from Ireland, Republic of Ireland. This is a beautiful goat's cheese. And on the blue to finish, we have some Stichelton, which is a unpasteurized Stilton style blue from Nottinghamshire.
Okay.
So a nice little cross section there.
Good. Right.
So
let's
try these with the wines.
Oh, you froze for a second there. What did you say?
I'm looking forward to trying these with the wines. So
yes,
get stuck in.
Okay, so let's go for wine number 1, the white. So this is a Gruner Veltliner. It comes from Austria, and Austrian bottles of wine are always very easy to spot because on the cap they put the Austrian flag.
I noticed that when I was uncorking this one. That was definitely not seen very often.
Yeah, so Gruner Veltliner is a grape that is pretty much just universally grown in Austria. You don't really see it anywhere else. Some people call it the Austrian Sauvignon Blanc, and I think there's a little bit more going on in Gruner than there is in Sauvignon, but it kind of tells you where it's going. It's going to be an aromatic grape variety. And why I say there's more going on is illustrated by this wine. I don't know if you can see the color, but it's not a pale lemon or color that you might expect from a lighter wine like a Sauvignon. And that's because Gruner tends to be made in 2 styles. You get the lighter, zestier versions, which are very lemony, and they are pale. They're usually under 12.5% alcohol. And then the growers take their best grapes and they turn them into a much fuller, heavier wine, and usually indicated by putting reserve on the label, which this one has. And then you still get that zesty citrus fruit, not just lemons, but grapefruit start coming through. But you also get some nuttiness, some honey starting to creep through. And in particular, as they get older, you start to get those flavors, maybe a bit of ginger as well coming through. And this one, 2013, has that age. So let's give it a smell. So when you smell it, you can get that aromatic element to it. You can get a little bit of pepper, white pepper in particular. Definitely lemon in the background. Oh, sorry, not lemon in the background. Lemon very much coming through. Lemon and citrus fruit, a little bit of wine. Perhaps a bit of apricot as well, but not much hint of ginger yet. And then when you taste it, there's a ton of acidity there. Gruner Veltliner is always acidic, very refreshing. Lots of citrus going with that acidity. Straight on the mouth for me is some beautiful creaminess though.
Yeah,
it's lovely. Gives you a little bit of there's a little bit of lactic, malolactic conversion that's gone in there just to give it that creaminess. And that ginger is just starting to show, and there's a little bit of honey on top, a little bit of faux sweetness. The wine is actually dry, but it has a little honey.
It's got those little honey notes in there, definitely.
So for me, I always like it when I see Gruner on a wine menu somewhere, because it's usually good value. And also you can tell very easily if you see the bottle and you can see 12.5% or less, you know it's going to be light and zesty and refreshing. If it says Reserva and it's more than 12.5% alcohol, then it's going to be a fuller flavour, and especially if it's got some bottle age, it'll start to be showing like this is.
Is it good value does it tend to be good value in restaurants because it's not that well known, so not as popular? Is it just doesn't attract as high a price ticket?
It is that, yeah, it's not well known. Also, I don't know how much, but there's probably still a hangover from the ethylene glycol scandal back in the 80s in Austria, which almost bankrupted a lot of people. And you know, wine sales from Austria fell through the floor, which is a shame because there are some absolutely cracking wines out there, both red and white.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
but this is really lovely. I mean, it's definitely a wine I would look out for in future in a restaurant. I've come across it in the past. I've heard the name, and I'm sure I've tried them before. But certainly, you know, when you look at a wine list, sometimes you would see a variety that you wouldn't necessarily know. But this is definitely one I would look out for now. Right.
Should we give it a go with some cheese?
I think we should. I think we should jump in with the Bix, actually, the triple cream.
I love the way this has been packaged. I know it's marketing really, but I love the packaging.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, it's the same sort of packaging we see with sort of the sort of French petit long and other cheeses like that. It's a nice little way to protect the cheese. But yeah, it sort of dresses up really nicely, and then it's in a lovely little paper wrapper there. It's this is from Oxfordshire.
Right.
And it's made at Nettlebed Creamery. They're sort of Henley on Thames way, and it's an organic cow's milk cheese. A lady called Rosa Grimman started the business in 2015. It's her grandfather's farm that they get their milk from, and she kind of felt it was a shame that their lovely organic milk was getting taken away mixed in with the milk of other farms and going, you know, into the sort of the big vat of UK milk that wasn't really sort of finishing itself. So they decided to do something better and create the creamery. And then they could make 3 different cheeses, this one and the one called Highmore and then one called Witheridge. They also sell organic unpasteurized milk. They sell kefir and cultured butter as well. But this is our sort of favourite of their cheeses. Triple cream, as I say, so it's had extra cream. It's full cream milk with cream added into it.
Wow. So it isn't a diet cheese then?
No. And I understand you're not really, it's not PC to say heart attack on a plate anymore. So
no.
I won't say that, but that's kind of where we're heading with it.
Yeah, this is not a light cheese, is it? It's got a beautiful weight to it.
And you'll see it has, just to get this onto the camera actually, it just starts to sort of go a bit kind of gooier. This is going to focus in very well. A bit gooier just under the rind and a little bit firmer in the centre. But this one I've got here has been out of the fridge for about 2 hours, and it's just probably
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's gooey just inside the rind.
Yeah. And that's due to the bacteria in the rind on the outside, it gradually breaking the cheese down from the outside in.
Right.
So you'll quite often see that if you have something like a brie or something similar to this, you'll see that, and technically it's sort of perfect ripeness when it's still a bit chalky in the centre, but then a bit gooey under the rind. But as ever with cheese, there are no right or wrong answers, and people like things different ways. And for some people, that would be underripe. For others, when it's really gooey and running off the plate, it's too ripe. But this is a really nice. I'd say it's not particularly strong flavour. It's quite delicate in flavour. Be interested to see how it stands. Well, if it stands up to the wine. With a comment, I think the wine might run over the top of it a little, but we'll see.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it is a lovely balance. It's beautifully balanced. The rind is not overpowering with it.
No, there's quite often there can be bitterness on these kind of cheeses on the rind. There's none at all. It's really mellow. It's beautiful flavours.
Yeah, right. Let's give it a go with the wine then. I think you might be right, but let's hope we're both wrong, and it matches up.
Okay. Certainly takes some of the acidity away straight away.
Yeah, it does, which is not surprising given the amount of weight and the amount of fat that's in the cheese.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a big burst of apricot when I that wasn't really there so much before.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
Mm.
Yeah, it does. It pushes that flavour right through, doesn't it?
Mm. Mm. It is doing quite a lot to elevate the wine, but the cheese does get a little bit lost in the background.
Yeah, it's not. It's a nice pairing, but it's a bit one-sided. But it's not doing anything bad to the cheese.
No,
it's just kind of
the cheese
a supporting role.
Yeah, the cheese is very much sort of pushing the wine. Go on, show yourself.
Yeah, the wine is standing on the shoulders of the cheese for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be offended by that in any way.
Me neither. It's a very nice start, very pleasant. I've been trying to think about Austrian cheeses, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank.
Right. The only thing I can remember is the kind of thing my mother used to buy when I was a child, which was the smoked Austrian from the supermarket.
The little sausages. Yeah. That's my dirty cheese secret, that is.
Yeah, I don't think you'd allow that in your shop, Stephen, would you?
No, but I still have a bit of a soft spot for that cheese, and if I see it occasionally, I will just buy one and snaffle it. So, we're all allowed our own little cheese secret, guilty pleasures. Yeah, very nice.
That helped. Right then.
So, do we want to go through the other two with the white?
Yeah, let's do it that way. Let's go around with the white first and then the red.
So the second cheese I would go with is the Killeen. This one of my all-time favourites. It's a good cheese in the shop. It's actually made with pasteurised goat's milk. But to look at it to taste, you wouldn't necessarily know that it was a goat's cheese. And one of the things we get, the customers in our shop will come in and say, I don't like goat's cheese. Whatever you like, but no goat's cheese. And then Alice, one of our cheesemongers, was talking to her last night, and she said that she has customers where she will get them a selection of cheese and then wrap a piece of this up and say, right, that's my sort of final selection. Take it home. I'll tell you about it next time you come in. And they come back and they go, oh, it's beautiful. And she'll go, well, it was a goat's cheese. And they are sort of, gobsmacked. Whereas if you'd have told them it was a goat's cheese up front, they might have shied away from it. But
but that's people, making a sweeping generalization about goat's cheese, really.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, which is like the anything but Chardonnay brigade. Chardonnay anywhere makes lots of different styles of wine.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, I have a bit of a problem with the likes of, say, Pinot Grigio, where I'm just like, my head is like, no, it's horrible rubbish. But I've actually had some really nice Pinot Grigio. So it's like all things. We have a similar thing with blue cheeses. People will come and say they hate blue cheese because they've tried Danish blue or something really strong and metallic. But there's a whole world of, as you'll see with this Stichelton, it's a whole world of much more fuller flavoured, gentler blues. But anyway, back onto the Killeen. Beautiful, creamy, butterscotchy, caramelly notes in there. Bit of honey in there as well.
It has this beautiful. There's just a touch of saltiness balancing that sweetness. That I was just going to say generically sweetness, but you hit it on the. Then suddenly, when you say things like butterscotch and something, that's what it is. Yeah,
lovely flavour.
That is an awesome cheese.
So it's made, as I say, in Ireland, but the lady who makes it is Dutch. Marion Rowell, her name is, and she was visiting Ireland and fell in love with a goat farmer in the village of Killeen, and then stayed there with his herd of 40 odd goats or so. In 2004, she started to make cheese there. She was already cheese making in Holland. She studied at agricultural college. So it's a Gouda style cheese. Yeah. And this is quite unusual at the time. It was very unusual because talking about people's preconceptions about goat's cheese, people were, expectation was a smaller, fresher cheese, like a little crottin or a goat log or something like that. So it sort of stood out, and they've grown the herd from 40 to 200 goats now, and they are Swiss goats that they've got there now, which is great because they don't really like the sunshine, so they work well in Ireland. It's just a really lovely cheese, and as I say, it defies people's expectations. I think it's going to pair quite nicely with this wine.
So this cheese, I can honestly say, I mean, I really like it, but I can honestly say I had some preconceptions of what it was going to be like, and I've never had anything like it before. It's very unique.
Really good.
Right, let's see with the wine.
Bit of the acidity back, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not as much fat in this cheese to mask that acidity. So the acidity goes a little bit more easily. And with that, the some of the flavors of the wine stay a little bit more masked. But I think these two together are much more balanced. So the flavor of the cheese doesn't get hidden behind the wine in the same way.
It's still there, isn't it?
Yeah. But at the same time, I think the two of them are sort of holding hands politely, but they're not both elevating each other as much as they might.
No, it's not setting the world on fire.
No.
It's not a bad match, but as you say, it's good friends rather than lovers, I think. Okay. I'll be interested to see how this one does with the red as well, because we tend to recommend pairing it with something like a Malbec.
Oh, right. Okay.
So we're sort of, a bit sort of richer and a bit sweeter. So we'll see how we do.
Right.
So we move on to cheese number 3, which is the Stichelton. We'll get the hang of waving this at the camera sooner or later.
Yeah.
So this is a Stilton style cow's milk cheese made in Nottinghamshire. This is where we get into a bit of a story about protection of names and recipes and PDOs and stuff like that. Stilton is one of about 7 or 8 British cheeses which has PDO protection to it. So to call a cheese a Stilton, it has to be made in a certain way, in a certain place, with certain ingredients. As you know, for same is true for wines and cheeses and other sort of artisan produced foods as well. Stichelton is arguably, in terms of its history and recipe, is arguably a bit more authentic than Stilton actually is. As things stand at the moment, the PDO for Stilton specifies that it has to be made with pasteurised milk, whereas historically Stilton would have been made with unpasteurised milk, and there was a bit of a food scare in the 1970s, 1980s, and at that point the recipe was changed to pasteurised milk, and then the PDO was applied. So as a result, Stilton has to be made pasteurised. So the arguments from the guys who make Stichelton is that they wanted to call it an unpasteurised Stilton, but there was lots of arguing to and fro. And I think, long story short, I think that as their cheese has kind of grown in popularity and grown traction, they've realised it's actually better keeping it as a different name. And Stichelton is the name of the village one of the villages that originally was producing Stilton.
Right.
So it's a bit of a sort of complicated story there. It's actually produced by an American guy called Joe Schneider, who oversees all the production, and it's all done by hand, including ladling the curds and looking after the extra maturation time involved to give something that's really carefully made. So that hand making means that the fat globules in the milk aren't smashed to pieces. Yeah. So you've got really rich, creamy cheeses. And this is very balanced, very creamy. It's not the strongest blue out there, but it's not the mildest either. There's a little bit of sort of pepperiness to it. I get sort of, again, some sort of caramelly, occasionally fudgy type flavors from it. There's a slightly fudgy texture to it as well, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I mean, we've always have Stilton in our house, have done for years. And this, you know, we as well as buying good stuff from the local cheese shop, we'll get stuff from the supermarket, and the difference between them can be quite marked. This is probably got most of the things, if not all the things I've looked for in a good Stilton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly that creaminess, which, you know, can be lacking in cheaper, more mass-produced Stiltons. And I think that's what you're saying about it not being smashed up. Yeah, it's maintain that beautiful creaminess.
That's it. It makes it far more labour intensive and a longer process to do. But this is the thing with handmade cheeses. I mean, some of the handmade brie producers do the same thing, because it's just so important, just preserving the integrity of the fat in the milk. And just it just, you know, you can tell it just pays dividends.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just to handle it as well. It's just a lovely firm cheese. It's not falling apart, crumbling like some of them can, and it's not you know, overly blue either. So you know, they've been subtle with the amount of mold that's in there. Yeah,
I think it's got a lovely flavour.
So you've got the flavour of the cheese itself, rather than just going, "Oh, I'm a blue cheese." So,
yeah, and I think that's what I said before about some people who come in and they say, "Oh, I don't like blue cheese." They've been put off by something which is so strong. All they get, is blue. There's no cheese.
Yeah.
They're just not balanced at all, and it's not surprising that they're off. You know, they're off-putting. But this is it's far more subtle. I think that this might stand over the wine a little bit, but we'll give it a try.
Let's see. I've got hopes about this one. Yeah. But hopes come back to one of the earlier tastings we did, where I think it was an aged Riesling, which had a bit of honey note to it. Went really well with the blue.
It did. You're right. It did.
I want to see, you know, with this cheese, not such strong honey notes, but how does it do?
Well, that does very nicely.
Again, that maintaining that creaminess in it. I mean, you know, that fat offsets the acidity quite nicely.
Yeah.
Still get plenty of flavour from the cheese. It doesn't mask the cheese flavour at all.
I think it actually amplifies the creaminess of the cheese slightly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the wine is working with the cheese as well.
Yeah. And the wine seems a touch richer as well.
Yeah.
You've got that little bit more opulence coming off it.
I'm getting slightly more peppery notes off the wine as well. A little bit more spice.
Yes. That's quite a nice little combination.
That's good. Yeah, I'm fairly pleased with these three pairings in general, actually. But this one, I think of the three, this has got the most going on.
It has, yeah. So our little Gruner has done a good job across the lot. It's an all-rounder.
A very good start.
Yeah, for me, it's done well with the blue, which I hoped it would.
Yeah.
It's not quite up, you know, it hasn't knocked my socks off the way that aged Riesling did. I can't remember which blue it was now, but that was incredible.
Yeah, there was far more of that kind of honey notes to the wine, wasn't that's the thing. So I think that's the difference there.
Okay, so let's go for our.
Should we go for the red and go around again?
Yeah, here's our red. It's from Burgundy, I'll remind you. So Moulin-a-Vent. Moulin-a-Vent is a village in Beaujolais. So it's one of the larger villages, and because of that, you know, it would have been known as a Beaujolais village at one point, and then they rebranded and started putting the names of the villages on as well. So you get a few others, Morgon, for example. And over time, they just dropped the name Beaujolais. The only place that Beaujolais features on this label is, I think it's on the cap that was on the top of the wine. It said it in very small letters. And, you know, you can imagine why they do that. It's because of Beaujolais Nouveau, which is a marketing exercise to get people to drink a lot of very cheap, nasty Beaujolais.
Yeah, you want to be associated with that, do you?
Yes, exactly. So they're trying to disassociate, and this in particular, I think, is not just from Moulin-a-Vent, but it's a particularly the Clos de Grand Carquelin. They've gone as far as putting the estate on it as well. It's quite a well-known estate. So this is should be one of the better Beaujolais, and of course, people know Beaujolais from Beaujolais Nouveau, and they immediately think, oh, you can't age Beaujolais. Well, this is 2009, so it's had a reasonable amount of time in the bottle.
Yeah.
But Beaujolais is made from a grape called Gamay, so it's not Pinot Noir that you see in the rest of Burgundy. It's a lighter wine, the same as Pinot Noir, so you do want to chill it a little bit, generally, to keep it fresher when you're drinking it. Mm-hmm. But unlike Pinot, it has very little tannin, so there's not so much of that chewiness that you get from the tannins. The cheaper end of the Beaujolais, you're going to get Gamay. People say Gamay, it sounds like jammy, and that's what you get. You get lots of red fruit. In particular, people pick out things like strawberries, and it tastes cooked and jammy. This is going to be slightly different. It will have that red fruit, raspberries as well as strawberries, but you'll start to get some of the other flavors that you get from Gamay. There'll be a bit of should be a bit of violet on the nose, and in particular as it's aged, a little bit of earthiness. People talk about potting soil, so I don't like the idea of a mouthful of potting soil. Yeah. When you taste it, I mean,
I just want to say the color is beautiful. It's absolutely, I don't know how well that's going to show on the camera, but beautiful, rich red color. That
you can't see it that well. Yeah, it's a lovely ruby color. It's also not that dark. You can see through the wine.
To your point again about Beaujolais Nouveau, and in my head I've got this image of something that's very sort of insipid looking and fairly uninteresting and very very sort of thin. Yes. This looks totally different.
That's just bright red. Yeah. Oh. So there you go. The nose is a little different to a Beaujolais Nouveau. There's plenty of red fruit there. There's a few other things going on there as well. I do get that sort of, there are some flowers there, some violets, maybe some other flowers as well, maybe peonies.
Yeah, that's lovely. There's something there I can't quite place.
Yeah.
Oh, but I have to say, for the time of the year, because we're in November and it's quite dark outside, this smells comforting. This smells like winter, like curl up by the fire.
Autumnal. So then in the mouth, let's taste it. So plenty of red fruit there. So strawberries, raspberries, a little bit of cranberries even. There's a touch of black fruit there for me, maybe some black currants for me, which was a little bit unexpected. But the fruit is still quite fresh. So, compared to that Gamay is jammy. It's not jammy fruit really. It is not as fresh as it would have been if we were drinking it 5 years ago, but it's still quite fresh. Plenty of acid in there, which will hopefully go well with the cheese. And there is that sort of earthiness in the aftertaste as well. Once you swallowed it, that you'll have that sort of forest floor earthiness that we were talking about. So it's not potting soil, but it's just something that's sort of coming in through the background.
Yeah, and that marries up with what you get on the nose as well. It's just there's that real sort of earthy, foresty. Yeah, it's kind of it's walk in the woods kind of thing, isn't it?
Yes, after the rain as well. Yeah, and second taste, that I do get a little bit more of the violet coming through as well. But yes, it has got that sort of it is like an autumnal walk in the woods.
Lovely. Yeah.
And as expected, very little tannin. So the acid is keeping it fresh, allowed it to mature. Very little tannin carrying it through as it matures. So let's see how that goes with cheese. Think about wines and cheese. You don't necessarily always say, oh, it has to be tannic. So I've got some hopes for this one to see how it goes.
We'll see. We'll go back to the Bix. We'll go back round to the soft cheese.
Yeah. So we don't need to talk about the cheese anymore. We can go straight into that tasting, can't we? Oops, dropped a bit.
Hmm. That does something very interesting with the flavour of the wine.
Yeah.
It sort of skews it off in different directions, of more fruit. I was getting kind of like fruit yogurty kind of.
Mm.
Maybe that's the cheese combining.
Yeah, it seems to, for me, I got an initial hit. I don't know whether it was just because I had a lump of the skin on my tongue at the time, but I got an amplification of the taste of the skin of the cheese. But let's try a little bit more.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm.
Really interesting.
Yeah. I can still, it's not knocking the cheese into the background in the way the Gruner Veltliner was, but I think it's reflective in that this is a lighter wine.
Yeah.
So the cheese is, we are getting some slightly different cheese flavors from the cheese because the fattiness of the cheese and the acidity of the wine are cancelling each other out a little bit. So I'm getting a little, the skin flavors coming through. And then for the wine, it's removing the acid and just leaving you with fruit. So you've got this sort of, this quite a nice combination, really.
Yeah, it's right. I was very unexpected, and then it was sort of like, wow. I think you're right. That sort of amplification of the fruity flavors got me into thinking about where I tasted stuff like the kids' yogurts or something, the kids' fruity yogurts, where they're just overloaded with the fruitiness and the sweetness. That's where I'm getting from.
It is, yeah. And you know how you get that chalky background taste in yogurt. That's it. That's why it's yogurt. It's the chalkiness from the skin that's coming through with it. Yeah. So yeah, instant yogurt.
Very nice. I won't be feeding it to my children anytime soon.
No.
That would be irresponsible.
Yeah, I can imagine you putting that out at breakfast. Sorry, no yogurt today. You could
yeah, could get into trouble with that.
Some Bix and some Beaujolais. Right.
That's really good, but very unexpected.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would not have picked, out of the three, I would not have picked the Bix to work with the red wine, but there we go.
That's part of the fun of doing this, though, isn't it? It's just finding what goes. And let's move back round to the Killeen then for goat gouda.
Goat's cheese gouda.
Certainly not as interesting as the previous one.
No, it's sort of.
It's not doing a great deal for me, I have to say.
Yes, mostly harmless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a guy to see. Again, they're sort of politely saying hello to each other, but not really doing it.
It's not really. I think they're kind of ships that pass in the night for me on that one.
Yeah, they're not. You can taste the cheese, you can taste the wine, but there's nothing really changed.
No. Both really good in their own right, but just not meant to be together, I don't think.
That's odd, because I think I would have picked this cheese to be the cheese to go with the red. It's very odd.
Right. Well, let's moving swiftly on.
Yes.
Part that one and go back to the blue.
Yes, let's do that. Still great cheese. Love that. So here, I think what I'm seeing, the cheeses are sitting on top of the red wine quite a lot.
Yeah.
So the cheese is there, the red wine's getting hidden underneath it.
Yeah.
The acid,
the acidity's gone, hasn't it, from the wine? Cheese has taken all that away.
Yeah, so the only thing the wine's doing for the cheese is it's taking away some of the creaminess, and you're getting a little bit more of a blue hit. But yeah, the wine itself is disappearing behind the cheese. There's no fruit really coming through.
Yeah.
So,
And it's leaving there's a quite a strong aftertaste as well, which is definitely more hanging in from the cheese than from the wine.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I'm just a bit obsessed with this cheese, to be honest with you. It's just so nice.
it is a great cheese.
And the wine is great as well.
Right then, it's time to vote. Where are you putting your vote this show, Stephen?
I'm going to go with the Bix and the Beaujolais. I'm going to stick with the bees. And that was such a head-spinningly good combination for me. It was just a little bit out there, but I wasn't expecting it, but out there in a really good way.
I am with you. I wasn't expecting that at all. I would not pick the reds to go with that cheese. You know, on paper, those are a combination. However, I'm going to go a little bit. I'm tempted to go for that, but I'm going to go for the Stichelton and the Gruner Veltliner. Yeah, I think I've just got this obsession with blue cheeses and mature whites that are showing a bit of honey. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that honey and blue cheese is a classic combination. So for a good reason, they just pair so nicely. But I'm really pleased. We've got some really interesting pairings. It's, you know, one or two, and they were all okay. You know, they were just, but there was no sort of horrible car crash pairings going on there. But I think those two pairs in particular just stood out. Yeah, definitely. By some distance. So, yeah, it's good to get one for white and one for the red. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So definitely wants to hunt out. That's really good. Okay. Right. Well, everyone, hopefully you enjoyed that. I know we did. Now we're going to put our heads together, Stephen and I, and work out what we're going to do for a Christmas special. Oh yes, and I think it will be special. There will definitely be blue cheese involved at some stage on that. Right. I'll start working a few things out on that one then. Great stuff. We'll look forward to it, and we'll see everybody soon. Bye, everyone. Yeah. Oh, how do I stop recording? Right.